Well, joining me here today are Kate Fabian, the Director of Marketing Communications at Hyundai, and David Rodriguez, the Multicultural Marketing Communications Manager for both Ford and Lincoln. So thank you both for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you guys have got some really heartwarming and interesting stories to tell. Each of your companies has done some unique things during the pandemic. But of course, we are all also cynical marketers. So we want to hear your thoughts about how doing these great things resonate with your customers and your prospective customers and help connect with them better. So let's get right into it. What did each of your companies do to assist or support people over the last year, and how did the efforts come about? Kate, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
Sure. Well, firstly, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Tanya. It's great to be here with you all. This is a very unique and very challenging time for everyone. I'm sure that many of you on this call have been personally impacted by the pandemic. And just looking back into Hyundai and what we're about, and the goal of our company is to make a real difference in people's lives and doing whatever it takes to lift people and society. And during this time, the safety, health, and well-being of our employees, our customers, our business partners, and the communities in which we operate is so important to us as a company. And we knew from our colleagues in Korea that testing was so critical to managing the virus. We saw so many companies doing an amazing job with manufacturing the PPE. So we as a company, we decided to focus on testing and to leverage the relationship that we had with a South Korean diagnostic company by the name of Seegene. We also had a really strong relationship with many of the hospitals. I'm not sure if you know, but we at Hyundai, our core CSR program is known as Hyundai Hope on Wheels. And part of this program, our mission is to find more cures and improve the care for children battling childhood cancer. So we already had that key relationship. And through this cause, we donated just shy of $4.5 million to 23 hospitals throughout the US to support COVID-19 drive-through testing centers. We supported and we've completed more than 1 million tests as part of this initiative. But it's critical to us, and it was critical that we provided this support to many of the hard-hit cities like Chicago, LA, Detroit, and New Orleans. So I'm sure many of you have been familiar with it. But that was just one of the many, many things that we did. We also wanted to ensure that we not only looked after our owners, but customers coming into the brand. And if any of you remember, back in 2009, during the global financial crisis, Hyundai launched their Assurance Job Loss Protection Program. So we wanted to bring that back, and we committed to making up to 6 months of payments for new owners who'd lost their job during COVID-19 and purchased or leased a vehicle during the early stages of the pandemic. We also allowed our current customers to defer their payments for up to 3 months. We knew this was an extremely uncertain time for many people in the community, and we wanted to take this pressure away from them. We also extended our warranties and our Blue Link connected car campaigns just to give our customers just that little bit of extra leeway during this uncertain time. Also first responders program. We all talk about the firefighters and those on the front lines, but the people on the front lines during the pandemic were the healthcare professionals and the hospital employees. So we made sure that they were eligible for our discounts on our new vehicles. And this program is still running today, and we intend to continue it. Within our dealerships, we wanted to ensure that people felt safe. And so we launched a Clean Assurance Guidelines program. We wanted to be sure that our dealerships had cleaning procedures and social distancing measures, just so that our customers didn't feel nervous to go in and do maintenance on their cars. But not only that, we wanted to give them the ability to shop from the convenience of their home. So we really ramped up our digital retailing capabilities. And many people say today that, and I believe it myself, that the digital retailing space probably moved forward 10 years in the last year. Everyone had to get smarter within this space. Many industries are doing it far better than we ever were. And it gave us an opportunity to really talk to our dealer groups and get them on board. And now pretty much all of our dealers have digital retailing capabilities. They're also providing customers with the ability to have their vehicles delivered to their home. So we wanted to provide our customers with that certainty. And many people, are still nervous today to go out of their homes. So we wanted to ensure that they could get on with their everyday lives with the support of doing business with Hyundai.
Well, it's funny because, not funny, but I was looking in to see what the day was. It was almost a year ago to the day that I was so freaked out. I didn't want to leave the house. I was one of those people. And I was watching the daily briefing with Mayor Mike Duggan here in Detroit. And he started going on about how Hyundai was donating all these test kits to Detroit. And I just was like, oh my gosh, that's a story, So I immediately started making calls, and it was Brenda Lawrence, Representative Brenda Lawrence, and him. They had been on the phone with Jose Munoz earlier that day, and I don't think you guys even had a press release ready to go or anything. I was just like, this is a story. I'm writing it right now. So I got to do some breaking news, and then Ford. We're going to talk to Dave next. You guys with your masks, you just hit a huge milestone. You reached your goal of donating 120 million masks to at-risk communities, which is just an astounding number. And I actually see those masks every Friday. I volunteer at the Michigan Humane Society, and all of the employees down there are wearing the Ford masks. So I'm seeing Ford all day long, which is kind of cool. So Dave, why don't you, besides the PPE, and obviously, that's a huge part of it, if you could tell us more about the PPE effort and then what else you guys have done, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya, and thanks for having us. Allow us an opportunity to participate. I think, a lot of it, and similar to Hyundai and their orientation to it, which kudos to the team there as well. The idea of how this really rings true for us as it relates to Ford values. Much of the whole notion of giving back to the community and serving the communities that support us is very much at the core of what we've looked at in terms of the importance of partnering with our groups at the UAW and looking at all the ways that collectively we can give back to the community. And certainly the PPE and the masks was one of the things that we're most proud of. Certainly the respirator programs, as far as all the work that was there and done in the innovation that represented, which again, we believe is, very much at the core of what Ford is all about, and that idea of resourcefulness. I think another big part of it was the idea of how we collaborate, across the organization to find out, new ways of supporting and leveraging the resources and the privileges that we do have is in the communities with our partners at Ford Fund. Which is a big part of it as it relates to our philanthropic efforts, as well as Ford Credit, in helping consumers through very difficult times in terms of the financing options. So I think we tried to look at it as a holistic opportunity, as difficult as it was, in terms of just trying to leverage all the great things that we believe are part of our company, as well as the important aspects about the community. And certainly those that were being, very significantly impacted in major cities. So, for us, it was very much a holistic, a cross-functional approach, and fortunately being able to touch a lot of different aspects of our business.
Well, and not to be cynical again, but there have been studies, and consumers today, especially millennials and younger, they really want their companies that they're giving money to, that they're doing business with, to walk the talk, and not just say we're good people. They want to actually see acts. So it may be a philanthropic effort, but it's also a marketing effort, in a way, because you're connecting with people. And I'm sure you guys have gotten, you didn't go into it for pats on the back, but what kind of feedback have you gotten? And can you tell us any anecdotal stories about, maybe a couple people who you touched? Kate, do you want to go ahead and start with that one?
Yeah, sure. The feedback we got was, it was very heartfelt, and, it makes what we do every day, as Dave said, worthwhile, because we're in the business of selling vehicles, but we're also part of the community, and the community was hurting, and we as a company needed to stand up and be there and be there to help them. help them and reassure them. And particularly part of what we did with the hospitals, we've had a lot of feedback from the hospitals, and one lady who I do want to talk about, her name is Leslie Payne, and she's the director at UT Health San Antonio, and she's worked very closely with all of our CSR team, and particularly the Hyundai drive-through testing site. And every Monday we get from Leslie kind of the weekly report on the number of COVID testings that our testing centers had done that week. And she always, tried to add a little bit of perspective and add a bit of a human side to that story, and talk about, some of the healthcare providers, how they were doing, the patients, the staff, the families coming through. Particularly in those early days, there was a lot of anxiety needing to go out and get a COVID test. I'm not sure if any of you did. I did. And I remember my little boy back at school, and I remember, oh my goodness, having to go for the first time to get tested. I think we got a little bit immune to it, and it kind of being part of reality. But in those early days, it was a little nerve-wracking. And she talked about a story of her son, and in his sports team, he came in close contact with a teammate who became quite ill, and he had tested positive. So Leslie herself had to take him to one of the drive-through sites, and she rang up one of the directors and was given a ton of helpful information. And she showed up there the next morning, and she went to the healthcare worker who was going to administer the test, and the concern and care and compassion that this healthcare worker provided her son in this time of anxiety for him. She became very, very overwhelmed with it. And she went on to say, and just exactly what you'd said, Tanya, it's easy to echo taglines like we see about thanking our frontline care workers for all their work they're doing. But after seeing what it really takes and what it really means to be on the front line, and putting, your personal health at risk to help others, and knowing that we were there, actually being out there and helping to facilitate this. And she just couldn't be more thankful to what we were contributing and doing in the community. So it's those heartfelt stories that show, us walking the walk rather than just talking the talk, that really makes it worthwhile, these types of initiatives and what we've been doing in the community.
Well, it's crazy to think about how far we've come from a year ago when it was hard to get a COVID test. I mean, they were really dear. And the idea of that now, it's just like you said, it's become like, oh, I'm getting a COVID test, get one today, get one tomorrow. If they're so common. And now we're looking at vaccines as being kind of the dear thing. And I know Ford has been doing a lot with Finish. Their tagline is Finish Strong. And you guys are launching a PSA tomorrow, I believe, about trying to encourage people in at-risk communities to not listen to some of the weird stuff they're hearing about the vaccine, and to go ahead and to get the vaccine, that it's actually safe to get and that they should consider getting it. What other things have you heard, Dave, from people? Have you got any stories that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think one of the gratifying pieces for us, I mean, there's so much to be done, right, in this whole situation. But I think the degree in which I think the amount of outreach has permeated throughout the organization. I mean, everything from our employer resource groups, as far as affinity audiences and that type of thing, all the way down to our dealers, and seeing the amount of work that our dealers are doing at a community level, in terms of being involved, giving back to different organizations and charities, and the amount of feedback that they've received, we think is very emblematic in terms of the consistency, in terms of the values that we as a company have. So as our frontline partners, if you will, in terms of being dealers in organizations and so on, and seeing a lot of the great work that they have done and the feedback that they've received, we think is testimony in terms of just the consistency and the importance of just a more concerted effort across the board. Certainly a lot of very positive feedback, anecdotally via our social media channels and whatnot. On our Ford Latino channel in particular, a lot of very positive reactions, and we've done a lot of primary research in terms of just understanding what the community has been thinking, what they've been experiencing, and how they've adjusted, and that type of thing. And the positive feedback we receive from that group, Latinas in particular, in terms of just the amount of work that they see happening at the community level from organization, and not just our organizations. I mean, there's a lot of great companies giving back. But the fact that, they saw it as true to, what they perceived as the Ford mission, as well as, also changing their perceptions in terms of, what automakers like ourselves are doing out in the community. So, a lot of very, mixed, or I should say a range of different reactions from the standpoint of, those that are familiar with us, as well as those that are new and just not as aware of what our role might be in the community. So, very, very rewarding. And I think, in the grand scheme of things, I think is in terms of just, what's really important. I mean, certainly that type of reaction is what it's really all about.
Well, it makes doing your job every day a little not easier, but just maybe you feel satisfied, a little more satisfaction in knowing that you're actually reaching people, actual, individuals who are benefiting. So do either of you have any perspective on, are there any ongoing efforts that you think will continue after the pandemic has, more or less resolved, whenever that is, if you've got a crystal ball handy? Obviously we're not going to need as much PPE. We're probably going to need masks for another year, I would guess. Mask wearing isn't going to go anywhere, but anything that's going to continue on after this is resolving or starting to resolve?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. As I spoke about digital retailing, I mean, for me, that's the new way forward for the dealerships. And, recent research has told us that about 50% of customers do want some form of contact with the dealers, but they are very, responsive to digital retailing. And you've seen the likes of Amazon grow in the way they grew last year. That will continue, and we will continue to evolve that program to continue to make it more seamless through all of our dealer groups. Being able to service and maintain our customers' vehicles at times that best suit them is important, and being able to drop our vehicles to their houses or, to the place that suits them best. It's the way customers need to be treated and want to be treated. And as I said, I think us as an industry, we had a little bit of catching up to do. I think there are many other industries who are further ahead than us. But I am very proud of the work that we have done as an automotive group and how we've moved our dealer body forward. And we are seeing a lot of positive feedback and a lot of positive results from that. Other things I talked about it, but the first responders program, that will continue to include healthcare professionals and hospital employees. As you said, Tanya, I don't know how long we'll continue to wear masks, but we're certainly not over this wave yet. And it's funny, I have a 20-month-old and he grabs my mask when we go to leave the house, or he goes for the sanitizer to rub his hands. Like, it's this new normal that we never could have imagined that we would be bringing our kids up in. So, we as an automotive body and a dealer group, we need to continue to evolve. We have electronic signature authorizations. How can we make our customers' lives easier? And I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to be spending my Saturdays in the dealership getting my local maintenance done. So continuing to use automation and digital ways forward to continue to better our customers' lives. And if there's anything positive that's come out of this pandemic, for me, that's what's come out of the way we're now doing business with our customers.
Well, social distancing isn't all that bad, that can continue for a while. I don't mind the lack of crowds. I went to a Tigers game this weekend and it was kind of nice not having anybody next to me. It's like, you stay your 10 feet away. That works for me. Yeah. So Dave, how about you? Do you see anything that's going to continue on after things start to resolve?
I think Kate touched on it. I think this is really accelerated. I think areas in the digital space for us as a company, as well as for our dealers, in terms of what is possible. And I think it's accelerated a lot of the more customer-centric types of approaches that we all know are so important in an ever-changing and competitive environment. So I think those are, some of the positive things that have come out of it. I think we've also, we have more of an evolving playbook, quite frankly. I mean, because I think we're learning things every day in terms of how do we support our dealer network? How do we support our employees in terms of the education that needs to continue to go on relative to, how do we make our way through this? So a lot of things have permeated into our normal business cycle now that we've all adjusted to. And again, I think one of the key things that we've seen is to the degree in which our dealer organization has embraced the changes in business, and ultimately, you know, their success is our success. And those are the types of things that we're still focused on will be, I think, a big part of our way forward.
Who would have thought a year ago that we'd have spent the entire last year working at home? You know, when it started, we thought, oh, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, we'll be back. You know, and it's like, no, try 12 months, and we are still at home, which, you know, I don't know, a lot of people are never going to go back. I think we've have finally figured out, like, you know, we can be trusted. We don't have to be watched while we're doing our work. So maybe that's a good thing. You know, we'll not have to deal with commutes as much, or, you know, partial commutes or something. So, you know, just to sum things up, we got a couple more minutes, and then we're going to launch into questions. This is my last question for you guys. Why is it important, you know, overall, that automakers and other major companies step up and do things like this?
Yeah, and I think both of us talked about it in the beginning, but for us, you know, our customers, our employees, our dealers, you know, they're without them, we're not successful. And we owe it to our communities to help them in times of need. And, you know, there's never been a greater time than what we've all just endured over the last year. And it helps all of us. It helps all of us move forward. It, you know, fosters deeper relationships, a community spirit. I mean, we've got, you know, over 800 dealers throughout the US in all of the communities. And as Dave mentioned, just like the Ford dealers, many of our dealers are very invested in their communities. They've gone over and above what we've done to support the communities, and in turn, the communities give back. And, you know, they become valued customers and have valued relationships with all of our business and our business partners. So as a company and as an organization, and being very true to who we are as a brand, being ingrained in those communities and supporting those communities at a time of need is who we are as a brand, and very important to our company culture.
Dave?
Yeah, again, I think this is just one of those unifying moments where, you know, those of us in the industry, I think, share the same vision as far as just, you know, supporting those communities and those that, you know, ultimately are customers, making sure that they win as much as we win, and making sure that their health is our health. And I think that's, again, we constantly go back to Ford values, and in terms of what the company represents, what the Ford family represents, and, you know, making sure that we treat our customers as part of an extension of that family, that family perspective. So I think it's in some ways it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simplistic, but it very much rings true and is what we talk about on a daily basis. So I think that perspective on it, I think, is going to continue as we go forward into the balance this year and beyond. So
awesome. Lisa, do you have any questions for our panelists?
We do, and that's been great, guys. And we have a question here. What direct-to-consumer channels of communication have been most valuable, both in getting word out and in getting constructive feedback? And Kate, you want to try with that one first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, social media. It's you know, a lot of our customers are engaged in social media. You know, it's very important to us that we're not having one-way communications anymore. Consumers want to have two-way communications with companies. So monitoring those social channels, providing feedback. Also our call center, it's integral to who we are and what we do. And then thirdly, it's our dealerships. I mean, they're our front line. They're the voice of the brand with our customers in our communities. And they're the ones who are out there, you know, working with consumers and, you know, having empathy for what they're going on, because they're one of them. They're feeling it themselves. So it's very easy to be empathetic when you're part of what's happening. And so, yeah, and I think that the rise in digital and the rise in social media and the ability for customers to communicate in so many different ways, it's just opened up the space. And it's certainly made all industries and all brands have to be a lot more responsive than ever before.
people are online more than ever, you know, just
Absolutely.
there's not a whole heck of a lot else to do, especially early in the
I'm
pandemic.
sure all of you have your phones right beside you. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like an extension of you.
Dave, do you have anything to add to that, or?
I think Kate said it really well. I mean, and I think, you know, what we've learned from it certainly is the importance of our community management systems and content management systems in terms of just that aspect of responsiveness and being able to turn even, you know, maybe some more tense moments into positive moments and wins for the collective organization.
Yeah, I'm curious in terms of, because you guys have so many dealerships. I mean, you're a major brand and you have those brand values, and that's at the core of who you, both your companies are. But your dealerships are all in different communities and different markets, different ways of thinking. Do you have any response like that maybe that conflicts at times, or even with those communities? It's, I think at this time, so many people, so many brands want to make that step or want to have their voice heard, but then are sort of afraid at, okay, are they going to alienate this group of people over that group? And it's just, I'm curious how you handle that, especially where you do have so many different communities that you are representing.
You want to take this one, Dave?
Sure. Well, sure. Well, I think, look, we've gone to great lengths to make sure that, you know, with our dealer organization, that we're one team, and that at the onset of this, I mean, certainly a lot of uncertainty. And I think we went through a lot of lengths in terms of trying to communicate. I mean, just very basic communications in terms of what we were seeing and what we were trying to anticipate. And I think our dealer organization valued that, number one. And I think number two, because we, you know, we're doing this evolving playbook and basically trying to use the learnings on a day-to-day basis to help inform decisions, and then bringing dealers into that process and working with them in terms of what they're experiencing on a local market basis. We're both learning a tremendous amount through the at the onset of this process. So that has continued, and I think over communicating, as basic as that sounds, has been really one of the keys for us to in prevailing through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I mean, think about it, a year ago, how many Zoom calls or WebEx calls were you on? Probably
Right.
count them on your hand. I mean, I feel like I sit at this desk 12 hours a day going from one WebEx to one Zoom to one team meeting. And I think that's really opened up the landscape with our dealer groups. We certainly are having more and more meetings with our dealer councils. We've got subcommittees now. And as Dave mentioned, there's never too much over communicating. It's keeping them in the process and ensuring that they're part of key decision making, so that they too own those decisions and they can be on board. And the other key thing is everything's around the customer. So it doesn't matter where you are in the US, it's about the customer and being very customer centric in all of the decisions that you're making. And you may need to adapt slightly depending on where you are, but as long as you keep that core focus, I think it unites you and unites the way forward for the business and for being successful as an entire team.
Yeah, and it's I've talked to a lot of different marketers, and it almost, they say that they feel like they were given more of a freedom of their voice during this past year. It's sort of accelerated that, and I think you guys have sort of touched on that a bit. So I think that's great. You guys, it's really interesting conversation here. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Yeah, thank you for doing one more Zoom call today. Hopefully it's a little more fun than most.
Add to that, but,
Can't get enough of them. Can't get
enough.
all these wonderful faces staring at you.
Well, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
You guys are